The Steam version isn't out for another couple of days. December the 2nd is the launch of Need for Speed Unbound, but if you are an EA Play Pro subscriber, you can play right now. And yes, we have got the EA app working on Steam Deck, so we are giving this a go on Steam OS. If you want to get the EA app up and running on Steam Deck, then check out the link in the description below. So we aren't able to get a decent frame rate above 30 here, so the best settings is what you're seeing is the frame rate capped at 30 on the Steam Deck and the default low preset in game, with motion blur off and the upscaling turned off as well. I'm going to run through a bunch of other different settings, but first, just to let you know that this is the EA app running in Steam OS, and this is using the Lutris method with a shortcut straight to the desktop, and you can see EA app here launching Need for Speed Unbound. Now, I do want to point out the very first time I ran this, it sat on this screen for around 5 minutes. Now, subsequent launches seem to take 30 seconds to a minute, so don't be disheartened if you do start this up and it seems to take forever on that loading screen. Just wait it out, it only seems to happen the first time. As you can see though, graphics in game with that 30 frames per second cap on low actually looks pretty decent, and it performs very stably at 30. It does dip here and there with some loading spikes and some frame time jumps, but for the most part it does stick around that 30. You have that frame cap in place. Now it does have upscaling with FSR 2 on here, and just to show you what those low settings look like if we don't have frame rate on before we go into the FSR settings, you'll see that it doesn't really go above 45 even on those lowest settings, and it dips right back down into those 30s on a lot of occasions, with the frame time bouncing all over the place. So 30 frames per second is the best cap here, and even if we turn the AMD FSR 2 upsampler on here, keeping on those low settings, it seems like it's giving you a few extra frames per second. We've got a little bit of blurriness and pixelation around the details now with the FSR, but we're still bouncing all the way back down into those 30s. Even though we get a slightly few extra frames per second at the top end, almost pushing 50. So the FSR really is not worth it here. Keeping the cap on the frame rate at 30 is definitely the best way to go. And I have also found that if we keep the FSR2 on quality, but bump the graphics up to medium, it does seem to balance it back out. So if we do cap that frame rate back down to 30, but now the medium graphics preset with FSR2 quality, it looks slightly better in my opinion than the low with no FSR at all, but still maintains a fairly solid 30. It still dips around the same, but for me this did look just that little bit better. Now I know that you're going to be interested in running the 40Hz mode, and I really did try my hardest to get it to run at 40 frames per second with the 40Hz frame cap, and it just did not seem to be possible. Even with fiddling all of the settings and manually setting everything to the lowest possible here, with FSR2 on quality or balance, which really did not look nice at all in the night scenes, it even struggled to hold 30 frames per second. So I will recommend that you stick with the 30 frames per second cap, and if you want a little bit nicer graphics, then go with the medium graphics preset with FSR2 quality, and if you want a bit of a cleaner image with slightly less graphics, then go with the low preset and turn that motion blur and FSR off. Let us know in the comments below if you're going to be diving into Need for Speed Unbound. We will test the Steam version once the Steam version releases, but if you do have EA Play Pro, then dive in and let us know how you get on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.